In this Substance Painter tutorial for beginners, you'll be introduced to alphas and the rendering options in Substance Painter. The link to download Substance Painter is in the description. If you want to follow along, I have provided the model in FBX format that I made in Blender 2.9. The link is in the description. I will pick up where I left off in the last tutorial on layers and materials. Alphas allow us to stamp in added details into the mesh objects. Once we add alphas to the mesh objects, we can then rebake the maps to include the new height information. You can either use the alphas that come with Substance Painter, make your own and import them, or import alphas that you have purchased or have the rights to use. One of my favorite free resources for alphas is Pixelogic. The link is in the description. I downloaded Industrial 6 by Ryan Taylor. In order to import the alphas into Substance Painter, open the Alphas section of the shelf and click on the Import Resources icon. Click on Add Resources and add your alphas. Change the undefined to alpha. You can choose to import your resources to either the current section, which means once you close Substance it will disappear from the shelf, the project, it will be available anytime we open this project, or the shelf, meaning it will be available anytime you open Substance. I will hide all the layers in the layer stack. I'll add a new fill layer, and I'll turn off all the channels except for height, and change the uniform color to a negative number so the alpha will stamp into the mesh. Then I will add a black mask to the fill layer. I will select the square bracket from the alphas. Selecting the mask, I will stamp it into the mesh. If I hold Control and the right mouse button and move the mouse side to side, I can change the size. If I hold Control and the left mouse button and move side to side, I can change the flow. If I hold Control and the left mouse button and move the mouse up and down, I can change the rotation. You can also work in a symmetrical fashion. You just need to turn on the symmetry option and choose which axis you want to use. I'll use the x-axis for symmetry and choose the arrow circle alpha. When I stamp the alpha on one side of the mesh, it also appears on the other side of the mesh. It is also possible to use radial symmetry. I'll use the Industrial 06 that I imported. I'll choose a face that I want to use and change to radial symmetry. I will choose a count and choose which axes that I want to use. In this case, I'll choose Mirror Z. You'll see the red dots in the center, and when you move your mouse, you'll see a preview of the alpha. When you have the size and count correct, simply stamp the alpha onto the mesh. When I turn the other layers back on, notice that the edge wear and grime are not affecting the alphas. Open the Texture Set Settings tab, click on Bake Mesh Maps, and choose all of the maps except for the normals. And then click Bake Selected Textures. Now we notice that the grime and the edge wear are affecting the alphas. It is quick and easy to export the maps from Substance Painter. Simply go to File, Export Textures. You can then make your selections and export the textures. These can then be used in other 3D software. Now I'll talk a bit about rendering in Substance Painter. The default renderer is iRay, which can be accessed under the Mode menu. To get back to the 3D viewport, click on the camera icon. I will only go over the basics in the tutorial, but I've put a link to the documentation in the description. If you want to bring in your own HDRI, you can drag and drop an HDR file onto the shelf under the Environment section. In the pop-up window, change the Undefined to Environment, then select your import option and click on Import. By default, iRay will use the panorama for the environment map, which can be changed by clicking on the panorama button and choosing an environment texture. And I'll just choose the one I just uploaded. If I select Render Settings in the sidebar, I can see the status of the render. It will automatically start rendering as soon as we open the renderer. We can also choose our resolution, which can be changed if we click Override Viewport Resolution. We can also change our minimum and maximum samples, change the maximum rendering time, and we can also pause rendering. Under the environment settings, we can change the environment exposure, and the rotation. Under the dome section, we can change the dome type, which will affect how the environment will interact with the mesh. We can also change the radius and the texture scale. If we don't want to see the environment, we can check Clear Color, and then choose a color for the background. If Ground is checked, we can see our shadows, which we can also move using the sliders. We also have a few other options that can affect these shadows. You also have camera settings, including some post effects and viewport settings. When you have everything looking like you want, open the renderer settings and save the render. You can also share it directly to ArtStation. If you found this useful, please subscribe and turn on notifications. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.